What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
9YG. Chapter 243. A group of dog it. Advertisement. 246. Just a pack of dogs. Ping Yao wild appearance, had to make a strong congregation have felt a wave of panic. After all, they cannot judge it. Eyes that were really strong man to what extent. This is why, when they appear in large sword ho. Give them the kind of peace of mind of feeling. Now it seems. It did not even matter, there is so simple. If the Ping Yao wild yet it still cannot explain the problem, words. So already represents a strong master CP organization played like a large sword ho. It is enough to prove everything. They have put themselves on a level Yao wild laurels as the edges of thick heavy sum. For members of these organizations CP presence is turned out flat leisurely wild. It has clearly become the target of their hunt. If not for this reason the words, I am afraid that the presence of these people have long been rushed to the flat leisurely dismemberment of the wild. After all, now no one dares to face directly in front of them say the words. What's more they perform the task is to protect the safety of celestial dragons. This task can be said that throughout the world are among the most rigorous task. The results on this guy opened the warship. Hit over toward them. After that sword ho shot. On the right hand supreme large sharp knife, one of the 12. Unknown enemies loop feeding. Come back on display, an aquamarine light. Even on the sea before dawn. No sunbeam. His shot seemed to bring a more dazzling than the sunlight. The presence of remaining strong it can be clearly seen. Front of the large sword ho no doubt represents the pinnacle of combat power among these people. Not to mention the other party has shown the way. It has clearly proven his identity and status. As a protection officer is overwhelmed by celestial dragons guard among. If not for this, then. The large sword ho on what basis courage to stand up to the level leisurely across the wild. What's more, according to the situation now seems to marine world government and traditions. Celestial dragons security once threatened. They have to strike first. This is a marine and world government recognize the fact. Even so flat leisurely wild appearance. So that the people still have a trace of tension. They do not take it lightly. Celestial dragons moment is their security in mind. If it is really out of any accident, then, the presence of all of this responsibility that no one can afford to give. That put them together could not afford. The atmosphere of terror watch, crazy collisions between wild and who leisurely flat large sword ho. Before the big sword and a knife with both hands the supreme body that play a large sharp knife cut, split the pillion. Enough to swallow a day off huge waves in front of the flat Jonbo leisurely wild. She will devour the whole person. CP around a public organization experts who see this scene could not help but heart in his throat. They worry scared, do not know why. While there are enough confidence in the strength of large sword ho. But in front of the young man he was always able to make them feel afraid. The other has shown that an indifferent atmosphere. If people feel, not like a ship ready to transport the sky gold and celestial dragons were like attacks. More like a feeling to go out shopping. I thought of this. They immediately felt extremely absurd. Hastily expelled this idea to the outside of his mind. You must not be affected by such abnormal thoughts. Then they set their sights on the fighting that was taking place. Between the two fierce collisions, the huge warship carrying heavenly gold at its feet also shook violently. Before, he fell from the sky with Hirano. The moment it hit the warship. It has already made the stability of this warship at risk. No matter who it is, it can be understood. This battle has affected the hearts of everyone present. If it comes to the end. If you can still let Hirano leave safely. Didn't it slap all of them in the face? So everyone present was full of hard-hearted thoughts. He must not be left with the life of Hirano. These years. Although the CP organization is from 0 to 9. Divided into 10 departments. The affairs in charge are different. Advertisement. Baron shared a shocking secret with the entire world. Inspire. Said externally. It is the code name of CP9. The organization's function is to be responsible for fighting. Investigating intelligence and assassinations. And what exactly is the CP0 organization responsible for? Even inside the world government and marine is a secret. No one has ever known. These years. In some countries that have not joined the world government, why is the king's tragic death and the state power being subverted in an unexplainable way? And a lot of things were later found to fall on the revolutionary army led by Monkey Dorag. This is why most people in the world are concerned about the revolutionary army led by Monkey Lidrag. The reason for being born with a sense of awe and fear. Only, it is up to people to record such things. And how does the world government, as the authority, record this kind of thing? Of course they have the final say. So over the years, no matter how much liberation the revolutionary army has done all over the world. But it is still listed on the blacklist by the public. It is also for this reason. Even if it is the 0 CP organization within the world government. It is also a mysterious organization. Few people know what their functions are. How many people are there? The only thing that can be determined. It is the CP0 organization that has remained inherently mysterious and powerful over the years. A lot of things have been solved. 27 years ago. Behind the destruction of Ohara, there were organizations such as CP. It is precisely for this reason that led to the death of a group of top historians in the world at that time. It's just that the world government has never explained this matter. They gave only one reason. That is, if those people are allowed to live, it will cause turbulence in the world. Presumably if it weren't for Hirano to complete the task of the system. Attack the ship that transports heavenly gold. And also intends to do something with celestial dragons. This mysterious CP0 organization will not easily surface. Feeling the peerless methods and powerful aura of this great swordsman who attacked him. Feng Youhui's face was extremely calm. Although he didn't know the extent of his strength. However, the strength of the great swordsman with a long sword in front of him. He can still tell. After all, the opponent's hands are often ashamed. Cleave through the waves. When it comes to Jian-Chi, it can split the sea not far away into two. A bottomless trench suddenly appeared. What followed was a huge wave that could swallow the sky and the earth. Fighting towards this fleet, no matter who it is, he can see clearly. This great swordsman is extraordinary. But I don't know why. Hirano gave people the feeling, but he didn't seem to be afraid at all. There is even some contempt. Thinking of this possibility, the rest of the strong CP organization present suddenly felt incredible. What is this guy thinking? Does he really have a way to deal with the big swordsman's shot? No, it should be impossible. The big swordsman and the strong have already ruled the roost in the CP organization. An iron sword is among the top of the 12 supreme knives, even the world's largest CCB Hokage Mahog. I'm afraid it's hard to distinguish from that black knife knight. Although the two have not really fought. However, the members of the CP0 organization confirmed this fact incomparably. The people present all belong to the CP0 organization and naturally showed enough respect for their own strong people. What's more, the current situation does not allow them to delay time. Behind is the resting place of celestial dragons. Once celestial dragons lost faith in this battle. It's not just embarrassment to them. It is a severe punishment. Hey, how did you do it? Where did a wild monkey come from that can upset the earth? You bunch of trash can't take him down to me quickly and beat him to death with a stick. If it disturbs my good mood, do you think I can afford this kind of consequences? Sure enough, a celestial dragons dressed in spacesuits walked out of the cabin. The guards of the CP0 organization nearby were shocked. I'm going to stop him. Saint Wald, this is dangerous, please go back to the cabin. Master Rieger will definitely take that gangster, please give it to us. He hasn't finished speaking yet. I was slapped in the face by the opponent, hot. Although Celestial Dragons has no power to restrain chickens, the psychological trauma caused by this public humiliation method. Far more severe than the pain on the face. He shook his hand. After spurned, the face was really thick. He looked at Rieger who was holding a large knife. Hurry up and take it down for me. I still want to go to the shore to play. If I hear the noise outside before dawn, you can stop it by yourself. The Holy Land Mario doesn't need your waste. Please ask for flowers. Advertisement. He pouted his mouth and staggered into the cabin. The guard who was slapped by him just now didn't know what to say. She could only continue to stand aside, her eyes flickering. The great swordsman who holds the supreme sharp knife is named Rieger, and he is also a powerhouse of the CP0 organization that has gained fame over the years. It's just that no one knows his real name and identity. Rieger is just a code name. Hirano got a panoramic view of everything in front of him. The corners of his mouth twitched slightly and smiled faintly. Hey, it turns out that this is the creator of this world, so I have gained a lot of knowledge. After Rig heard what she said, with the supreme sharp knife in hand, they came in batches. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Hirano. You have to stab it. But the next moment, before his eyes, Hirano's figure had disappeared. No, it turns into anger. But then again, with your strength, even in this world, you can be considered top-notch. There is such a big sea that can be used for you to roam, why be a wretched dog? His words did not bring any change or shock to Rig's face. The latter put the supreme sharp knife in his hand horizontally and muttered to himself. Talking about going to the sea as a group of idiots who want to pursue their dreams. If I use them as a team, wouldn't I look even more stupid? There are enough idiots in this world. 0. After he finished speaking, the whole person's breath changed. As if blending with the surrounding space, Hirano frowned. He didn't expect this guy in front of him to have such a method. He can't use the system's capabilities right now. There is no way to load the character template. But against such a master. His experience is incredible. If a few words don't make sense, do you want to start a fight? Then come on. A little under his feet. The right hand stretched out, making a knife-like hand. Then crossed out. Feng Youhui's wild hand knife smashed out and hit the opponent's supreme sharp knife unexpectedly. Suddenly the sky fell apart, and a gap was even opened by the impact of the two of them. Endless sea water flooded, and this warship came. Obviously, he couldn't bear this attack. Of course Rieger couldn't go on like this. Otherwise this ship will sink. Of course the great swordsman knew that he didn't need others to remind him. He has already begun to figure out a way to direct his attack in other directions. But mediocrity certainly can't let him succeed. Hey. Now I finally know that I'm afraid. I never thought about what to do with you, and my goal is not you guys. With a move in Rieger's heart, Hirano's eyes always drifted to the rear cabin. Is it? Could this guy target several celestial dragons adults? I thought of this. His heart sank. If the opponent's target is really a few celestial dragons. Obviously this thing cannot be done well today. Between this guy's shots. The violent air is full. If it can't be blocked in time, it is clear that the celestial dragons behind them will be affected by the attack of both of them. There is only one way at the moment. That is, two people quickly left this area, but Hirano's strength is not something he can handle with just a few fingers. And look at what this guy means. Obviously, he intends to threaten him through the safety of celestial dragons. If this guy really wants to use this method, then he will be very passive. This thought just flashed through Rieger's mind, and Hirano flashed a weird smile. The figure moves. Taking advantage of Rig's thoughts, he rushed towards the rear cabin. All of a sudden, the entire warship shook violently. His speed is too fast. Almost everyone else just felt like a flower in front of them. It was late at night, and the bright moon above my head was already covered by dark clouds. At this moment, Feng Youhui was like a wild beast descending from the sky. There was no one to stop the rampage on this warship. Soon, almost instantly, he rushed to the cabin behind. After a loud shout, the straight fist hit his feet hard. After he smashed his punch, the warship under his feet began to shake. There was a crack from where he hit. Then the crack gradually expanded. Finally, a warship split in two. Chapter 244, Hirano's Decision. Advertisement. 247, Hirano's Decision. Screams and shouts sounded at the same time. After the warship at his feet was severed by Hirano, who had fallen from the sky. Present, everyone on the ship was affected. Help, what happened? Why? Obviously it is a special ship made by Marine, why does this happen? How can this happen when it is so easily cut apart? But let them ask any more. After all, I still can't say it. In the end, no one knew what happened. The only certainty is the reason why this main ship of their entire fleet is divided into two. It was because Hirano got it right. And this young man. Just now, there was still a little smile and the big swordsmen competed with each other. There are back and forth between fights. No one thought that the other party would become so powerful in a blink of an eye. Originally, they didn't pay attention to Hirano. In their opinion, this is just a daredevil. A lifeless guy who loses his mind. But now no one thinks like that anymore. The appearance of Hirano, there is no doubt that it has changed the pattern of all. Before he appeared, no one would have thought that one day. Celestial dragons are on a ship that transports heavenly gold. Jingran will be robbed. They are even more unexpected. One day a ship of this class. It would be cut in half by someone in the middle. Not to mention the ship that was uniquely divided by Hirano. Began to gradually become silent in the surrounding rushing waves. No one can understand what happened. But the only thing that can be determined. They are very dangerous. The horrible breath of 63-0 moved forward with the fluctuation of the turbulent ocean current. Everyone on this ship is very clear. If you let the situation continue to deteriorate, then they will have no way to survive. There is no doubt that these people present. To some extent, they didn't have much choice. But then again, if you really insist on this point, I'm afraid there are not so many questions to think about. The only thing that needs to be done, it is to stick to the thoughts in your mind. Then he took down the violent gangster in front of him. The appearance of Hirano has undoubtedly broken their previous mode of thinking and cognition fixed posture. The emergence of the so-called Hirano changed their cognitive framework. If it is said that they will not be completely sure before. No one dared to rob the warship that transported heavenly gold. That kind of fixed cognition is just an affirmation of one's own strong strength. After all, there are not only powerful marine escorts on this warship. There are even masters of the CP organization. But immediately afterwards, Hirano Henkong appeared. It completely broke the inherent thinking that they had formed before. If it weren't for Hirano to show up, people from these CP organizations present, I am afraid that I have not doubted my previous thoughts so easily. Sometimes I have to say, the collapse of people's beliefs really took place in an instant. With the warship standing at its feet, it was split into two. Gradually plunged into the turbulent sea. Among the ocean currents. Everyone was panicked. Who will come and save us? Why? However, they are already standing at the top of the world. Where will someone go to rescue them? At this time, the great swordsman had 12 supreme big black swords in his hands. The long knife, one of the supreme sharp knives, is placed horizontally. He glared at the mediocre Kuyong who did all this just now. Although he was slower just now, he did not keep up with Hirano's footsteps. But he didn't let the other party be too natural and content. Boy, don't go too far. Other people protect the safety of the adults and go to other warships. Today I will not let this guy leave my attack range again. A group of guards from the CP organization next to it. After hearing the words of the great swordsman, he didn't stay there anymore. Quickly greeted the celestial dragons in the cabin one by one. Seeing this posture, several celestial dragons no longer looked like Zhong and domineering. A ruthless man who can split a warship with his bare hands. Not much even in this sea. What's more, their superficial insights can naturally tell the current situation. Can't help but they are talking nonsense. But even so, celestial dragons is born with arrogance and pretentious belief. It still brought them unforeseen serious consequences. Ridge, I said it a long time ago, if you can't solve these annoying flies, I will consider whether you will continue to stay under the Holy Land Mary Bridge to enjoy the supreme glory of serving us. The face of the great swordsman remained the same throughout his life, and he seemed to turn a deaf ear to the threat of that celestial dragons. The celestial dragons next to him also persuaded him a few words sensibly. Advertisement. He followed the rest of the CP organization's guards to the nearby warship. Right now they can only wait for the great swordsman to take down Feng Youhui. Only in this way, they have the opportunity to ensure safety. The other celestial dragons all looked distinct. Even if it was that one, the great swordsman they had high hopes for. Facing Hirano, his breathing seemed to become a little quicker. They also understand that as long as they don't continue to stay on that ship, then the great swordsman can let go of his hands and feet to fight. At that time, no matter it is, everyone has to admit it. They are also celestial dragons. He also has the ability to unify this sea. Hirano watched as a group of celestial dragons were safely retreated to other warships. This point caused the great swordsman to be surprised. There was a chuckle in his mind. Does this guy have other purposes? Immediately, he thought that there was another thing on the ship that no one else could take away. Heaven is gold. The existence of heavenly gold is something they cannot ignore. And then, Hirano's behavior and actions completely reflected the great swordsman's guess. He secretly said badly. However, it was too late. Hirano's figure moved. He rushed towards the cabin where the gold was stored in the sky. There was endless energy from all over his body. Cut straight down. Just listen to a bang. It seemed that the sound of metal clashing shrouded the cabin above the golden sky. Was completely destroyed. All the gold in the sky is exposed above the sea in this way. Although Brother Wave Wanli had his head at this time, the bright moon was covered in dust. But the endless light of gold in the sky still bloomed. This flash of pure money cannot be stopped at all. When the great swordsman saw this scene before him, his eyes fell apart. He yelled, hole, you really did it for this. Since you are here for the gold from the sky, then I can't keep your life anymore. He had doubts before. Generally speaking, they came to rob their warship and this fleet. In all likelihood, it is for the heavenly gold hidden in this fleet. Although he didn't know what Hirano's identity was in front of him. He can be sure that this guy has wolf-like eyes. The other party must also be for something that is firmly protected by them. He had doubts before. He was still thinking, does the opponent have a coveted ship for the celestial dragons on this ship? After all these years, popular grievances are boiling around the world. Even if it's all of them, you know it. No one can be sure if there are some crazy elements who want to take this opportunity to suppress the existence of celestial dragons. But then again, even so, it will not have any effect at all. The existence of celestial dragons has lasted for 800 years. If you can solve these things so easily, then it won't last so long. But these are for them. There is no problem. And then again, according to his previous guess, there is at least a 50% probability. Hirano's goal is celestial dragons. But now it seems that this guy is more concerned about gold in the sky. The reason why the great swordsman has such a change of thinking. It is because of his mediocre situation. It's simply not enough to understand. The mediocrity also allowed the departure of celestial dragons. It is because of his task progress. Has already been updated. Ding. Congratulations to host for completing the first stage of the system mission. Terrified celestial dragons. Yes, after a fight just now. Hirano's task of activating the system has been half completed. In other words, he passed the time when the warship at his feet was completely broken. The goal of horrifying celestial dragons has been achieved. Also take this opportunity. He was finally able to become the one who made another big step forward in the task of activating the system. Now that the part of the mission about celestial dragons has been completed, then he has nothing to care about. All that is left is the gold of heaven. Complete the remaining half of the task, and then completely activate the system. And the system also brought him a surprise. After completing half of the system activation tasks, the system tells Hirano he can choose to turn on a feature. The moment Hirano opened the system panel, he was overwhelmed with excitement. If it were before, he would certainly not be so excited. It's really because this time in order to activate the system mission and make him a little too passive. Now that the system task is activated, it can finally help him successfully load the system. Advertisement. See the status displayed on the system panel. Hirano was very excited. System, open the loadable character template. Good host. After the system panel is opened, Hirano found a project that can load character templates. 3 words are written at the back. Whitebeard. A move in his heart seemed to be because he came to the world of One Piece. Therefore, the character template can be loaded, and the former captain has become Whitebeard. But this is fine, at least he doesn't have to think about it anymore. The difference between the two worlds and how to deal with it. Hirano continued to look over. The above is very clear and can be added to the character template. Whitebeard. Loadable ratio, 100%. It is completely different from the loading state of the previous captain. At that time, he started loading from a very low ratio. Till the end, nor is it 100% complete. But now it seems that the world view of combat power in the pirate world is comparatively speaking. They are nothing more than the combat power of the world view of the captain he loaded before. This is why. The reason why Hirano feels excited. If you can directly exchange your current strength into the world view of combat power in the pirate world. For him, it will be much more convenient. It's like he was still worrying about his strength before. In the world of pirates, what grade and level it is. The completion of the phased system activation task allows the system to give him the opportunity to choose to load the template. And the person who loaded it was not someone else, it was Whitebeard. The identity of Whitebeard. Of course Hirano knew. Among the pirate world, the man standing on top of this sea. One of the 4 emperors. Edward Newgate. He is also known as the strongest man in this sea. By looking at the system panel, he knew that he had loaded Whitebeard's template right now. That also means Whitebeard's physical ability and various functions. Even the shock devil fruit possessed by Whitebeard that has the power to destroy the world. He can also use it. In the previous words, Hirano was loaded with the captain's template. So his fighting style is more biased towards a swordsman. After loading the Whitebeard template, Hirano knew that his fighting style would change. As the situation changes, at the beginning Ping Yu's ambition thought. I still want to be an insight. Finally disappeared at this moment. Since there is Whitebeard's template, what swordsman is there? Even the great swordsman ranked number 1 in the world. In front of Whitebeard, I dare not call myself the strongest in the world in 5.3. I still have to find a way to find out what the gap between them is. So this is why, when Hirano saw that the system gave him the first character template to load, Whitebeard. Some excitement, although in the Naruto world. He has loaded the captain's template, which can almost kill the quartet. Unmatched. But now in order to complete the activation of the system without hindrance in the pirate world. Imminent. But then again, this kind of thing has never been static. In the eyes of the great swordsman, just now, he had a plain face that was as plain as water. At this moment, it suddenly seemed to be a different person. In his eyes, Ping Yuya's whole person is no longer the indifferent piece before. It is full of domineering hostility. The great swordsman's heart moved. I just wanted to wave one of the 12 supreme sharp knives in his hand to block. This is his experience, an experience after becoming a great swordsman for many years. However, it was too late. Just as his sword was about to be unsheathed. Ping Yuya's whole person is like a mad beast. Soaring. It is clearly the feeling of 2 people from just now. Fear, despair, the escort personnel of the CP organization present. There are only these 2 concepts in the brain. There is nothing else. They have seen things that are unforgettable in their entire lives. I saw Ping Yuya stepping out in the same place. Floating in the air. He clenched his fists and slammed out in front of him. Then the sky fell apart and the earth cracked. The darkness with nowhere to hide. It seems to be broken by this punch. Chapter 245. This is my time. Advertisement. 248. This is my time. This great swordsman can serve as a member of the commander in the CP0 organization. Naturally, his own strength does not need to be said. Coupled with his own pedigree and relationship, it is still an almost impeccable one in the CP organization. What's more, there is no other choice in the current situation. So the great swordsman could only stand up. Face the power of Hirano alone. But no one thought that in a short confrontation, this great swordsman would not be able to fight peacefully together. To make it clearer, this great swordsman is not Hirano's opponent at all. Everyone was completely dumbfounded. How can this be? The great swordsman has no choice but to get out of the way in the hands of that guy. No, impossible. Mr. Rieger is one of the great swordsmen in the CP organization. Although no one has tried to verify this in these years, there is no doubt that Mr. Rieger has already surpassed the so-called world's #1 swordsman Eagle Eye Mahog in terms of kendo cultivation. There was an incredible cry from someone nearby. He can't believe everything in front of him. For others, the great swordsman standing in front of them. It is enough to stand among all CP organizations, the existence of the top swordsman. It is also an existence that can stand at the top of this mainland sword magnate at the same time. They can't accept that turned out. The completely unknown guy is inextricably able to fight against Mr. Rig in swordsmanship. Not to mention, with the battle just now, everyone can see clearly. That guy clearly didn't fight with a long sword. Who is the most shocked in my heart now? Of course, there is nothing more than the great swordsman of the CP organization who is fighting in Ping Yuya. The handheld supreme sharp knife known as Rieger. The strong one of 12. Over the years, as others have said, although no one has tried to verify it. But almost everyone in the CP organization has a default. The great swordsman in front of him and the obvious #1 in the world in Hokage Mahog. I'm afraid I might as well let more. Can even surpass each other. This is not a spontaneous self-reliance. Or the rest of the negative thoughts. It's a real recognition. At the beginning, Leah Great Swordsman was able to hold the sword in his hand. It has already proved his strength. Since the One Piece King died in Logue Town 22 years ago, a great swordsman has forgotten his name. In history, in his own words. Except Rog, no one is worthy of being his opponent. But it is precisely because of this. Only then did Ridge's great swordsman receive a cold reception in the CP0 organization. Otherwise, he is already a real power figure in the CP0 organization that can speak for themselves. But then again, he himself did not have much ambition for power. This gave others a chance. And he became the captain of the Celestial Dragon's Guard. When your general team members are not equal for their captain, there is such an opportunity to fall from the sky. In this military battle that took place above the sea before dawn, I am afraid that no one can have a way to pass it back to the Holy Land Mariajoy. Let these guys with eyes above the top look at the Celestial Dragon's Guard Captain Reed Great Swordsman. How powerful is the true strength? But even so, when the other great swordsman saw Feng Youhui's gesture standing in the void. At that moment, he was stunned. How so? What does this guy mean by making this gesture? Over the years, the reputation of the great swordsman has not been obvious. But the members of the CP organization of clothes headed by him are fascinating. It has not only subverted the regimes of many countries. They even attacked many strongholds and bases of the revolutionary army. If the great swordsman uses his real name, I am afraid it has already topped the list of rewards offered by the revolutionary army. It's just that he himself doesn't care much about reputation. All he wants is to fight constantly with the strong. It is for this reason that he has made a lot of contributions. All were stolen by other colleagues. But he didn't like it at all. These things come back. In the CP can organize the internal faction woodland, no matter who it is, there is no way to be absolutely neutral. And this Rieger great swordsman is precisely because of his indifferent character to fame and fortune. It has been targeted by many. No one could think of the mysterious great swordsman who was able to form a terrifying confrontation with that group of gold medalists on the sea. Advertisement. It has been hidden inside the CP0 organization. He also became the captain of the Celestial Dragons Guard. And Celestial Dragons himself doesn't even care about it. These people who are escorts for them can have such qualifications in their eyes. It is a great honor and joy. Of course they don't care, but then again. In Celestial Dragon's own view, whoever has the opportunity to stand beside them. That is the great blessing. What's more, they don't care whether you are strong or not at all. As long as we can give them strength and help them eliminate the people who make them uncomfortable. Then you are the most loyal dog. And the reason why Rieger great swordsman would face the Hirano in front of him showed such an inexplicable look of horror. It was entirely because of what Hirano looked like at this moment. It reminded him of a person. The war on top that ended not long ago heralded the end of an era. It also announced the beginning of a new era. In this war, the former One Piece, Gold Roger. One Piece, Roger's son Portkas d'Ace was executed by Marine. In the war on the top, life and death are cut. Died with him. There is also known as the strongest man in this sea. Edward Newgate, a gold medalist nicknamed Whitebeard. It is also one of the 4 emperors on this sea. The most powerful pirate. At this moment, Feng Youhui, who was suspended in the air, clenched his fists with both hands. Towards the air behind him, he slammed into the air. After seeing this action, anyone with a bit of knowledge will subconsciously think of someone. The man who has long since disappeared in the long river of history. The man who imprinted his name in the history of pirate world forever. That no one can forget. The strongest man, Edward Newgate. Rieger great swordsman used to travel horizontally on the sea. Before becoming a member of the CP organization, he is a well-known swordsman in the world government. Before Hokage had achieved the prestige of the world's #1 swordsman. In that era of fierce competition for hegemony, Rieger's great swordsman was well known in this sea with countless titles. Everybody knows. There is a mysterious big sage, with the supreme sharp knife on his back. One of the 12 swords cut off the heads of unknown enemies. It was also because of this that although the great swordsman had never revealed his real name and appearance. But his name stayed forever. Also take this opportunity. He was able to fight against the original pair of legendary pirates. Of course Edward Newgate Whitebeard. It was also one of his goals. As a member of the world government, when news of the war at the top reached his ears. Li Ji's great swordsman is naturally a lot of emotion. In that era when heroes were born in large numbers. He played against Edward Newgate, although he was still young at that time. And Edward Newgate is already known as a man who can compete for the throne in the entire sea. After Edward Newgate collapsed from Rock's pirate, I prepared the Whitebeard pirate group by myself. From then on, began to conquer the war on this sea. What he wants is simple, his family. It's just that this so-called dream has been mercilessly mocked by all the other pirates. All the pirates who were partners with him. For Edward Newgate's dreams, they are ruthlessly trampled on. Of course if the strength is not as good as him, I'm afraid it's the one that was trampled on. But these are not important. Whitebeard didn't notice all of this. Until many years later, the original group of gold medalists had already withdrawn from the battlefield. Only his name was left. In the historical corridor of pirate world. There is only one person. Edward Newgate, Whitebeard is still alive in history. But he is living in the present age. The shout of war at the top. Although the end of an old era. But it has opened a new era that is more majestic and powerful. One Piece is real. This sentence undoubtedly ushered in a new era. Edward Newgate, with this feat before his death. Advertisement. Became a hero with the same fame as One Piece Roger in history. The great swordsman originally thought that era had passed. And the next era has not yet fully raised a group of hairy boys who have never experienced the golden age. How can it lead the storm of a new era? In his opinion. Marine is charging forward. This war will definitely end with a tongue-in-cheek speed. And Celestial Dragons is the ruler of this world. Will still continue to comply with the status. However, no one thought of it. Just before dawn on the sea, there will be someone born out of nowhere, right in front of the great swordsman. He made the gesture that made him terrified and excited. Do not, will not, Whitebeard is dead, died on top of the war. How can someone use such a method? Is he just cheating me? Li Ji's thoughts have not yet landed. I saw Peng Youhui floating in the air, and an inexplicable smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He clenched his fists and smashed behind him. Boom. A terrifying voice sounded. Let the whole sea torn apart. If you talk about the battle between Hirano and Rieger great swordsman who just appeared just now. It just made the sea rough. And at the very beginning. He fell from the sky, splitting a whole warship by means. It was terrifying. So at this moment, the method used by Hirano. Let everyone present have only one feeling. That is despair. Even just now, the strength of Rieger's great swordsman is absolutely trusted by the members of the CP0 organization. At this moment, I just feel cold all over. What exactly is going on? They cannot accept it. Just now they thought that Hirano who fell from the sky was a swordsman. That's why he was able to fight back and forth with that great swordsman. But following them, they found that things didn't seem so simple. The powerful 630 method used by the opponent. They simply cannot bear it. And now, as Hirano clenched his fists and smashed behind him, he was done. The whole sea began, and the change was jaw-dropping. With Peng Youhui's body as the center of the circle, the entire space radiated outward as if it had been smashed to pieces. And the sea surface finally turned into a cracked spatial ripple after another. Ah, what's going on? Why did I see what? No one can accept what is happening before their eyes. After Peng Youhui shot, the entire sea was torn apart. Become a piece of sea area. It seems that this is a means of the creator. Fortunately, there are still some powerful people in the CP organization. They thought of an extremely terrible possibility. Although this possibility is almost impossible. Isn't this the ability of Edward Newgate Whitebeard, one of the 4 emperors who were out of breath in the naval headquarters fighting on the top of the war before? What's going on? Isn't Whitebeard dead? According to the rumors, Whitebeard's fruit ability has been snatched away by the new 4 emperors Blackbeard who came from behind. Why? What did I see? This is not true, it must be an illusion. No one wants to believe what is happening right now. The top war that happened at naval headquarters not long ago. The end of an era has been announced. Edward Newgate ushered in the beginning of a new era in the name of Whitebeard. Then he left his name, this is the price he should pay. But right now, the method used by Hirano, who appeared in front of everyone. It was exactly the same as Edward Newgate Whitebeard's shock fruit posture that day. And the effect is not bad at all. It is completely different from the members of the Marine and CP organization who are on the warship one after another with shocked faces. The mediocrity at this time, but also endless excitement in my heart. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect shock fruit's ability to be really powerful to this point. It really deserves to be called the powerful devil fruit ability with the ability to destroy the world. Whitebeard, now that you have died in naval headquarters, on the top of the war, then I will help you complete your last wish. I can't say that I took your devil fruit ability instead of doing something for you. Then I can't bear it myself, don't you? But then again, whether you want me to do these things or not, this sea has been calm for too long. Ha ha ha, what a great pirate era. There will be an era of only one person next. I'm in the era of Hirayuya. Chapter 246. Who controls the ups and downs? Advertisement. 249. Who controls the ups and downs? 22 years ago, on the execution platform in East Blue Lobe Town. A generation of heroes One Piece, Roger was sentenced to capital punishment. He proclaimed the end of an era and also represented the beginning of an era. It was because of Roger's death. What he said before he died. Only then really set off a great era of the great pirate era. Maybe Roger himself can imagine it. What he said before his death would bring such a big revolutionary change. Even if it's him, I'm afraid you will never expect one day. What happened to him will become so brilliant and wonderful. Perhaps this matter is really something to be said. It must start from a long time ago. But there is not so much time. 22 years ago, Roger, the one piece that died away. No longer because of its own various reasons. All the consequences caused. But then again, all this comes to an end. It is just a dream bubble. It was originally arranged by world government and marine. The great era after Roger's death should have been under their control. But this kind of thing has never been so easy to control. Then again, Roger himself has declared the beginning of an era at the expense of his own life. At the moment, who can stand in the stormy waves of the times? In the violent storms of the times, try to turn the tide. That talent is a well-deserved son of the age. There is no doubt that for these people present, this matter is nothing, but the reason why they can do it carelessly. It's because that era has gone away from them. The new era has not yet begun. Especially the death of Whitebeard at the top of the war 2 years ago brought an end to that golden age. Now it seems, this matter is not so simple at all. But I have to say that even so, for people who are still nostalgic for that era is still the past they want to go back to. The appearance of Hirano broke all these routines. The people present are either masters in the CP organization. Or at least he is also a powerful figure in Marine who can speak for himself. When Hirano hit that punch, the space shattered in the air. When he even took the entire sea area torn apart by him. Even people who have no knowledge anymore finally realize it. What is the method used by the young man in front of him? The top war at naval headquarters 2 years ago. Brings a splendor to the whole world. There was a world-class war that no one expected. In that war, it was not Marine who stood out the most. It's not that Shanks, the red-haired redhead who came here after hearing the news, tried to use his face to heal all the pain. Not even the Four Emperors Kaido without a mask. It is the Four Emperors Whitebeard who fights against the entire marine system on its own. Edward Newgate. Even before this war, the situation of Edward Newgate was not very clear. Everyone has gone through this war. No matter what, it should be clear. This Whitebeard, the powerful means possessed by the Four Emperors standing on top of this sea. To be known as the strongest, the existence of Paramesha Devil Fruit. Shock Fruit. Shock Fruit, as the name suggests. It is the fruit ability that can cause spatial vibration. To some extent, Shock Fruit exists, announcing some basic theories about this world. And the betrayal of the interaction. To some extent, Shock Fruit itself has surpassed the existence of Devil Fruit. There is no doubt that Whitebeard can be called the strongest man in the world. Among them, Shock Fruit played a big role. And then again, it is precisely because of the mutual achievement between Shock Fruit and Whitebeard. Just let them both stand at the top of the world at the same time. Whitebeard who owns Shock Fruit is the Whitebeard who can be called the strongest man in the world. And because it is used by Whitebeard, and is a commonly used ability, Shock Fruit was able to stand out from the crowd of Devil Fruit. It is even hailed as the ability to destroy the world. However, why does this young man possess such terrifying power? Advertisement. In the beginning, no one wanted to believe in the methods that Hirano displayed. It comes from Shock Fruit, no matter what they can't believe it. After all, with the end of the Top War 2 years ago, the death of Whitebeard, Shock Fruit is already famous. It fell on the body of the new Four Emperors Blackbeard. No matter what you think, no one wants to believe it. There will be a strange face on this sea unexpectedly. And carrying the remaining prestige of Shock Fruit. It seemed that he was actually planning to subvert the whole world. After all, no matter it is, everyone can understand. The existence of Shock Fruit has brought too many surprises to this world. Even they still have to admit it themselves. Whitebeard, who originally owned Shock Fruit, is a man who can stand at the top of the entire world. If it was said that Rieger Great Swordsman had an attitude towards this young opponent who appeared in front of him. Still disdainful. So now he has lived up to his previous ideas. He saw it clearly. The methods that Hirano displayed were the same as when Whitebeard fought on the top of the war 2 years ago. There is almost no difference. We can even say, he is stronger than the previous Whitebeard. The reason why I say this is because Whitebeard was on the top of the war 2 years ago. Long gone. He is not only covered with pain and sickness. Even the whole state has been unable to return to the peak period. It is precisely for this reason, so, Whitebeard was once able to compete with One Piece Roger for the throne of One Piece in this sea. Will be reduced to a war on the top, even his own son cannot be saved by the hero's twilight scene. For him, whether it is the betrayal of his will or the repeated contests of Marine. There is no doubt about it. It has been proved that he, the former gold medal player, has no choice. Can only say that sentence. New world could not be after the words of my ship. The curtain came to an awe-inspiring ending. After the war ended 2 years ago. The pattern of the world has changed, whether it is people who are willing to ride on that sea or not. All have to accept the change of this set of rules. The impact on them is undoubtedly after the death of Whitebeard. Who can reach the top to become the new strongest gold medalist? This has become the biggest question. For everyone at the moment, what they are looking forward to is not simply continuing to struggle on this sea. Find the meaning of your own existence. It's a deeper level of thinking about how to get more benefits. Yes, since the death of Whitebeard. Although he was still just a pirate before his death. It is impossible to say how good he did. But one thing can be confirmed. That is after the death of Whitebeard, this is above the sea, and the heroes are separated. No one can trust each other. It is also because of this. Only then did this sea fall into chaos again. This is why when Hirano was born. Even the Marine of Logue Town dared to leak out the news of the ship carrying gold in the sky. And the detailed information can be purchased with only 10 million. Even a road map will do. If it were in the past, this kind of chaos in the military camp is absolutely impossible. However, after the war at the top, almost everyone felt a sense of crisis. Whether it is the wanton pirates on this sea, or whatever. All have fully appreciated this style. For them, whose real future is in their hands. Needless to say, that's right, for Hirano, after he loaded Whitebeard's template. He possessed the physical ability of Whitebeard and the ability of Shock Fruit that made the world frightened. So this is the ability to destroy the world. It's really good, it suits me well. Standing in the air, Hirano clenched his fists, feeling the vigor and strength of his body. This feeling seemed to have an inexhaustible illusion, and it gave him the feeling that it was on the top of the mountain. The water of ice and snow that never melts, bit by bit. Finally it was used by him in the end. In any case, for the domineering aura shown by Hirano. Those strong in the Marine and CP organizations, there is no doubt that they must stop her in time. Because no matter who it is, it can be seen. After Hirano took the shot, he used the ability of Shock Fruit. This sea area has been broken into several pieces. If you let him continue to do whatever you want, I am afraid that this sea area and even this fleet will no longer exist. Yes, their purpose and mission are only one. Advertisement. Protect the safety of celestial dragons, and if the safety of celestial dragons is always threatened, then the significance of their existence is questionable. Once this feeling and idea are implemented, As the great swordsman of the Celestial Dragon's Guard, he must be responsible for this matter. No doubt, if you want to do this, there is only one way to feel and do the most intuitively. The breath of terror hovered over the entire sea. Let this fleet seem to be above the sea. A page of flat boats fiddled with at will. Even if their fleet takes action together. Almost the power of a buster call. But I don't know why. After Hirano's shock fruit ability, the existence of these people seemed to be extremely weak. That's right. For them, it was compared with the Hirano in front of them. What is this fleet? Whitebeard, who had real fruit at the time, screamed for war on the top. With one punch, Marin can almost sink to the bottom of the sea in many ways. The scene and destructive power that Hirano created right now. On the contrary, it is not worth mentioning. Great Zhanao's eyes were extremely cold. The long sword in his hand was placed horizontally, tightly holding Feng Youhui standing in the void. He knew that although the guy in front of him didn't know what kind of methods he used. But there is no doubt. The opponent possesses more destructive power than the original Whitebeard. What's more, right now their mission is to protect the safety of several celestial dragons. If the other party is allowed to destroy it like this, it is not the safety of celestial dragons. I am afraid that the heavenly gold on those warships will be beaten to the bottom of the sea. At that time, several of them were the guards of celestial dragons. Incidentally, he also shoulders the important task of sending the heavenly gold to the holy place Mariajoy. Once it is really exposed, I am afraid it will. The consequences of that, just thinking about it, feel that people can't resist. But at the moment, Hirano is showing great strength. It makes them feel desperate and unable to contend. There is no doubt that Hirano's existence. The strong people of the CP organization present have realized a little bit. Although they don't know how the young man in front of them got the fruit ability of the once strongest man in the world, Whitebeard. But there is no doubt that this is a genuine shock fruit. This is also the shock fruit that can destroy the world. For them, there is no difference between the two. After all, once celestial dragons and celestial gold were harmed. Then they have only one dead end. There is no doubt, to some extent. For the masters of a CP organization, if they want. Sincerely avoid the fight with Hirano, and instead take care of protecting the safety of celestial dragons. Naturally, it is not impossible for Wang Haohao to do it. But mediocrity is also the act of dancing wildly on top of their heads. No doubt, aroused the unhappy vengeance in their hearts. For Hirano himself, the existence of celestial dragons is only part of his mission. And next, the only thing left for him is to complete the remaining tasks. In other words, the heavenly gold will be robbed. Complete the task of system activation. Celestial gold is the descendant of celestial dragons over the years as the god of creation. A tax that is imposed on a weekly basis throughout the world. The reason why it is called heavenly gold is because of celestial dragons' view. This is something dedicated to them, of course it needs to be called that way. Moreover, the composition of heavenly gold is mostly composed of gold with the highest purity. Regardless of the purpose of celestial dragons, the ratio of heavenly gold has increased over the years. There are already countless people who have been trapped in dire straits, and they are suffering beyond words. The emergence of the Revolutionary Army just proved this point. There is also a cross-sea bridge that can almost open up the connection, the whole area of the sea. It was built using Tianshengzhen's funds. No one knows what the purpose of that ship is. In addition to the 4 words, laboring the people and hurting the wealth. Nothing else. But in the eyes of celestial dragons, all this is nothing at all. In their view, the world belongs to them. I want to use what I want to destroy, what I want to destroy. Don't you just do whatever you want. Male, with the appearance of Hirano. There are still questions. The next situation will become extremely acceptable. The great swordsman knew this, and he waved his hand. Several men next to him in his changed formation. Waiting for Hirano's changes. Chapter 247. The Majesty of Celestial Dragons. Advertisement. 250. The Majesty of Celestial Dragons. There is no doubt, for celestial dragons. This world belongs to them. In other words, whether it is celestial dragons themselves or those under celestial dragons, members of the CP organization responsible for the security of Tianlong. They should all belong to the privileged class of this world. If you follow the previous statement, celestial dragons themselves are descendants of the creator of this world. This is why they are called gods. Over the years, there have been security incidents about celestial dragons. Although it is less and less, it only happens once. It will alarm the entire world government. 2 years have passed since the last celestial dragon's safety incident. It's Luffy who was the character of the New Age pirate who once had a war on top of it. But even so, he also tasted the consequences. Lost his dearest relatives in the war on the top. Portkas d'Ace. It's just that no matter how many people have their families destroyed because of celestial dragons. Because of celestial dragons, wheat is scattered. Increasingly miserable and miserable, it seems to have been receiving punishment. The ordinary people on the cross-sea bridge are determined because of the will of celestial dragons. And finally immersed in countless pain and grief. Inextricable. No matter who it is, 630 has seen enough to understand the existence of this celestial dragons. This is a malignant tumor in this world. However, he has ultimate legitimacy. This is why the CP organization and Marine have to guard the safety of celestial dragons. Once anything happens to celestial dragons, the masters of the CP organization and Marine Admiral of Marine All must rush to the scene as soon as possible. This point can be seen clearly enough from the battle 2 years ago. After the war at the top, the pattern of the world has changed. The death of 4 emperors Whitebeard gave birth to a new generation of 4 emperors Blackbeard. At the same time, it has brought about changes in the world pattern. Everyone started to rethink a problem. That is, should this world be like this originally? It's just because the 4 emperors headed by Whitebeard stabilized the situation of the entire sea. It brought a better result. It is because of this. So, when Hirano was born, these powerhouses of the CP organization were the first to respond. It's not the true identity of the other party. Advertisement. But thinking of these characters present, subconsciously, I began to think about why Hirano can exist. Be able to show that way. It was entirely because he had gained all the abilities from the veteran 4 emperors of Whitebeard. Whether it is physical ability or devil fruit ability. But then again, why can Hirano get these things? To some extent, the appearance of Hirano hit the people present. In other words, everyone has to admit it. The appearance of Hirano has made them realize a little. That is, someone can shake the rule of celestial dragons. Whether it is from the physical ability, or from the aspect of gathering people's hearts. Can do this. That being the case, what else do they have to worry about? But then again, for the great swordsman in front of him, Hirano's strength was beyond his expectations. But it's not only that. If Hirano only had the means comparable to those of Whitebeard, it's nothing. But what is it to ensure that this will not be affected by the rumors over the years? This has become a very critical issue. There is no doubt that Hirano appeared. It has sounded a wake-up call to the masters of the CP organization present. For them, mediocrity also exists. There is no doubt that one point has been proved. That is, no matter who it is, they cannot easily slander the thoughts and actions of celestial dragons in this world. And today, I will demonstrate this result in Hirano's body. As predicted, after seeing Hirano show the same ability as the old 4 emperors Whitebeard Edward Newgate. The supreme sharp knife in the hand BCFD of the great swordsman, one of 12. The whole person leapt into the air and smashed down. At this time, although it is still the night before dawn, can't see anything clearly, but the battle between the two of them aroused countless lights and brilliance in the air. There is no doubt that after having the full capabilities and templates obtained from Whitebeard, Hirano already has the top combat power to compete with the current world. That is, the qualification and ability of the great swordsman in front of him to fight. In other words, although the opponent hasn't yet revealed the means and identity to fight against Mahog, the world's largest swordsman, Hokage. But there is no doubt that he has this ability. Whether it is swordsmanship or other means. It's also advertisement. However, Hirano was able to make the opponent be overwhelmed. This is enough to illustrate the problem. And in other words, according to Hirano's guesses and ideas, what he wanted was nothing more than taking advantage of this opportunity to snatch heavenly gold. Activate the system. Come and continue his life and living conditions in the pirate world. At the same time, if you can complete some tasks that can help him get benefits by the way, that's better. However, as the situation progressed, the mediocrity is gradually discovered. These things are not that simple. That's why he embarked on the road of no return to robbery of heavenly gold. But then again, this is not without a reason. For Hirano himself, this matter will undoubtedly lead to some serious consequences. But he had to, whether it is the existence and behavior of celestial dragons, or the strong attitude that has always been shown. In Hirano's view, this is the worst behavior for the entire world. And right now, the great swordsman in front of him is making a move. It even made Hirayuya feel that he was at the top of the world, and the strong man was stronger than himself. Not too much. You know him now, but he is 100% loaded with Whitebeard. But even so, brought to Hirano, it's just a kind of excitement and excitement from the heart. He is too eager to fight the strong. Ha ha ha, come on, come on. What's the point of this? Today, let me see the strength of the so-called top swordsman in this world. With a long shout, he floated in the air. As for the bottom up, holding a long knife, he stretched out his right fist towards the strong man who was standing at him. Boom. The entire sky seemed to be shattered. Hirano felt the mountain shake for a while. And all the guards of the CP organization around, eyes wide open at this time. Full of incredible and unbelievable. Why is there such a powerful person? Isn't Whitebeard still dead? Chapter 248. Whitebeard is still alive. Advertisement. 251. Whitebeard is still alive. Most of the masters present at the scene have participated in the worldwide shocking war for the top 2 years ago. So for Whitebeard's shot, naturally no stranger. What's more, at that time, Whitebeard almost contended the entire naval headquarters on his own. Even Marineford, which has sunk to the bottom of the sea, was built by Whitebeard. If not for the new Marine Marshal Akainu insisted on moving naval headquarters to New World. I am afraid that naval headquarters will still bear the insult of the destruction of the entire naval headquarters. Continue. But for them, there is one more thankful thing. That is, even if Whitebeard was once invincible in an era. But he is dead after all. A person has died, even if he had endless glory before his death. It should also dissipate in the long river of history with his physical death. Therefore, the members of the Marine and CP organizations present did not care too much. After all, Whitebeard is dead. There is nothing to be afraid of for a dead person. However, the energy and mighty power that Hirano displayed in front of him. It made them dream of returning to the nightmare period of the war that they could not bear and survive at that time. This feeling gives people the most fearful scene finally appeared in front of them. And it's still floating in the air from a person who will die. Under the thunder of lightning, under the moonlight that has been covered by dark clouds. Hirano's figure is like the great figure who died on the top of the war that day. He clenched his fists. Cracks were cracked in the air. This kind of spatial cracks and turbulence aroused the turbulence of countless sea areas around. Let this large piece of warship under everyone fluctuate with the ups and downs of the waves. They have to. After all, when the war was on the top. Whitebeard's powerful strength and momentum. I have to say that shocked the whole world. Only then, everyone realized that the four emperors could actually be so strong. It turns out that a human being can be so powerful. Advertisement. The appearance of Whitebeard redefines the concept of the world's strongest. Everyone can't help thinking about being the Pirate King, Roger, who once competed with Whitebeard for the seat of the Sea King. He was able to beat a monster like Whitebeard. So how strong should Roger, the Pirate King, be? Therefore, the scene of the war that day left an indelible impression on too many people. This is also why these people will be heartbroken when Hirayuya shows such a powerful aura. Unbelievable, because for them, Whitebeard felt invincible enough. So after the death of Whitebeard, it was the end of an era for them. It is also an invincible symbol of complete death. If a person dies like that, they should no longer be feared by others. But why is someone now able to show exactly the same methods as Whitebeard? There is no doubt that what this young man is displaying is the ability of Shock Fruit. But why? Shock Fruit has obviously been taken away by the new four emperors Blackbeard. No one can understand everything in front of them. Only the great swordsman was able to fight with Hirano. After all, he is a person who has seen big winds and waves, and he is also a person who has seen countless lives and deaths. For him, the appraisal also showed all the abnormal states. Don't be afraid, he didn't feel any fear because of Hirano's appearance. This is his determination as a great swordsman. It was also his awareness of being a strong man who had fought against the pirates of the Golden Age. As far as he is concerned, the presence of these is the reason why his subordinates are afraid of Hirano. It's all because the other party looks like a dead person. But for him, this is not the case. At the top of the war that day, he did not have the opportunity to participate. Although as a strong man who has played against the Golden Generation. However, the regret of not participating in the top war still made him feel a little bit missed. So at this moment, Hirano showed exactly the same ability and powerful strength as Whitebeard. Did not let this great swordsman retreat. Instead, it made him feel a little excited. He had a foreboding that the regret of not participating in the top war that day would be completely put down today. Advertisement. No doubt, the appearance of Hirano will make up for the trace of regret in his heart. As for the rest of the people, they are in fear and despair. Da Janao excitedly lifted the long sword in his hand. Ha ha ha, do you really think you are Whitebeard? What if you are Whitebeard? Don't say that Whitebeard has died in the war on the top, as Marine's defeated general, I never think he is so powerful. Since you are using Shock Fruit's power, what if I treat you as Whitebeard for the time being? It's nothing more than dying on my hands once more when I die. The swords in the hands of the great swordsman contended, and a green rippling air was stirred in the air. The wave of terror broke out. In the air, one after another rippling towards Feng Youhui. In an instant, Hirano was wrapped in it. Ha ha ha, so this is what you have as the successor of the dignified Whitebeard ability, it seems that it is nothing more than that. Both of them are rare powerhouses in the world. One is a person with the ability of Whitebeard Shock Fruit. Another, a great swordsman who almost competes with Hokage Mahog. These two people shot at the same time, naturally there are not a few surviving existences around. The warship had already been rippled out by the aftermath of the battle between the two men. It flew so far. At this moment, both of them had already thrown themselves into the battle. Hirano also almost forgot his original plan and identity. This great swordsman in front of him will become the most direct obstacle to his seizure of heavenly gold. He is bound to take this guy down. Otherwise, follow the tasks issued by the system. To seize the heavenly gold, this mission will be a failure. For some reason, he has such thoughts and feelings. This is why he would agree to continue fighting with the great swordsman who proved in front of him. The long sword in the hands of the great swordsman neighed, he didn't plan to give Feng Youhui a chance at all. At the moment, it seems that the two are vying for supremacy. Jing Ran is in an unbeatable appearance. For the great swordsman, this is an unacceptable ending. Hirano even possesses the same monster-like strength and abilities as Whitebeard. It shouldn't be possible to take him easily. This thing is not normal. Chapter 249. The Persistence of the Great Swordsman. Advertisement. 252. Perseverance of the Great Swordsman. You know, this great swordsman is also a strong man who has fought against the Golden Generation on the sea. In any case, he should not be defeated. In the hands of a young man like Hirano. What's more, the opponent just has the same ability as Whitebeard. No matter what, Whitebeard is dead. Died in the protracted war that the world knows. And anyway, with the end of that war, Whitebeard's own reputation completely vanished. So anyway, the great swordsmen were a little unwilling. He didn't believe it, the young man in front of him who seemed to be nothing at all. Just relying on possession is similar to Whitebeard's means. At this point, you can bring yourself a failure. Of course he didn't want to believe it. But when Hirano made the 63-0 hand, the methods used still made him unable to accept that kind of power. He couldn't realize the existence at all. To some extent, the great swordsman is a strong player in the CP organization. He should have been fearless. But why is the current great swordsman able to deal with Hirano? But there seems to be such a kind of inability to look directly. The thought of not being immersed in it. This feeling is more like my own feeling a long time ago. At that time, the great swordsman was not yet the great swordsman of the whole world. From that time on, that great swordsman had the opportunity to show his presence in the world. And at that time, he didn't fall into his hands, which can be called one of the fastest knives. That is one of the 12 supreme sharp knives. This long knife. But even so, his strength is beyond doubt. At the beginning, no matter who it was, there was no way to deny the existence of Leah's great swordsman. Brings an alternative change and feeling to the entire CP organization. For him, the CP organization has been renewed and changed because of its appearance. But the other powerhouses on this sea. But because of his appearance, he couldn't calm down more and more. In other words, over a long time span, the appearance of the great swordsman changed everything. Changed the layout and development of the whole thing. This is why when Hirano appeared in front of him. When Hirano used Whitebeard's signature skills and methods. He hesitated, he doubted. He was even somewhat unacceptable. His unacceptable point is not to say that Hirano is so powerful. This was beyond his expectation, but Ping Youhui was like this. A person who should not exceed his powerful range. Until today. But still unable to be accepted by him. Ping Youhui clenched his fists tightly, and constantly waved his wine in the air to use the methods and moves that belonged to the former four emperors Whitebeard. This is a technique called shock fruit. He doesn't need to have special moves and styles at all. Only need to condense shock fruit's abilities on double fists. Then it kept waving in the air and smashed it out continuously. It can bring personnel trouble to the fleet of warships below. Not surprisingly, Ping Youhui at this moment already has the means to move vertically and horizontally above this sea. He is undoubtedly one of the monsters in this sea. However, the great swordsman certainly couldn't let Hirano continue to run wild like this. He is holding one of the 12 supreme sharp knives in his hand. Be a sword by example. Man and sword are one. In the endless night before dawn. His whole person turned into a sword that can tear the sky. Even Ping Youhui has the shock fruit ability that can destroy the world. But still in front of this sword, it seems bleak. Janchi aspect. The whole space was filled with sword chi coming and going. For Hirano, this kind of sword aura brought only trouble to himself the most, rather than enough damage that could not be resisted. Right now he turned on Whitebeard's template. It's not just the ability to have real fruit. He even possessed the physical abilities of Whitebeard himself. We must know that the former Whitebeard was not only famous for shock fruit, but also became one of the veteran four emperors. Even the strongest man in that era who was infinitely close to Roger, the One Piece King. If it's an average person, even having shock fruit doesn't work at all. In other words, it is precisely because of the mutual accomplishments of Whitebeard himself and the bursts of fruit. Only then has the supreme legend. Advertisement. Yes, the shock fruit in the hands of Whitebeard is the most powerful devil fruit. This is why Whitebeard can be the strongest four emperors. Being the strongest man, in other words. The reason shock fruit is the strongest paramesha fruit is because he is bound to Whitebeard. Otherwise, if it is a general pirate powerhouse, own shock fruit. It is also impossible to maximize the shock fruit's ability to destroy the world. Hirano closed his eyes and felt the huge energy flowing through his body. It seems to be inexhaustible. This feeling comes from the effect of loading the Whitebeard template for him by the system. And he also understands. Right now, for him anyway. This matter has been finalized. That's right, the power that Whitebeard showed will finally be understood by others one day. In other words, now Hirano finally understood why Whitebeard was on this sea at that time. The man closest to the throne. His strength is amazing enough. And the other one, the great swordsman, as a strong man who has experienced that era and even played against the golden generation. Naturally, he didn't want to let Ping Youhui be so strong. As a result, the sword in his hand seemed to grow more than 10 times longer. A little under his feet, he came into the air, and the whole person and the sword became one. Go out horizontally. A sky curtain is thus divided into two. The shocking sword chi burst out. He slashed straight towards Ping Youhui. At this time, Ping Youhui still had a calm face. He seemed to express his satisfaction after feeling the true power of Whitebeard in 5.3. That's right, Ping Youhui is very satisfied with the rewards of the system at this time. He is even more looking forward to it. After waiting for him to rob the heavenly sacred gold, how will the system reward himself for completing the activation task? As Hirano's breath became stronger and stronger, everyone except the great swordsman seemed to have begun to become a little desperate. Even if they have never experienced the feeling of fighting Whitebeard. However, everyone witnessed the war on the summit 2 years ago. At that time, Whitebeard's powerful ability to destroy the world was still branded in their hearts. The same as today. At this moment, everyone once again saw this unforgettable real battle of the strong. P.S. Ask for flowers, ask for tickets, ask for rewards. Chapter 253. The Battle of the Strong. 253. The Battle of the Strong. If it is said that what these people present originally wanted to appear in front of them. This young man Hirano will certainly not be the strongest among them. The opponent of that great swordsman. However, with Hirano's strength, it was revealed bit by bit. He actually possessed the fruit power possessed by the already dead Four Emperors Whitebeard. Not to mention that there cannot be two identical fruit abilities in this world. At that time, on the scene of the war, the new Four Emperors Blackbeard had already used special means to seize the ability of shock fruit. However, this matter never meant to end again. For Hirano, what he wanted to do was simple. It is to seize this opportunity to win everything that I thought of before. Even think of a way to get rid of this so-called superstition. This shocking sword aura came from the great sword tyrant. Hirano turned a blind eye. He just turned sideways to look. The ship that floated up and down in a piece of sea that Shang had already opened for him. He feels good. That ship has the true position of heavenly gold. Although the system has helped it load 100% of Whitebeard templates. But I don't know why. He seems to have only Whitebeard's physical abilities. Combat thinking skills and shock fruit ability. And the most critical one is Conqueror's Haki. But he didn't own it. Feng Youhui lowered his head and pondered, if he guessed well. This Conqueror's Haki should only have it after he completes the planned mission. The existence of Conqueror's Haki gives the worldly strong people the confidence to fight against Devil Fruit's ability. With the emergence of Haki, Demon Fruit power is no longer a symbol of invincibility. Although not absolute, but after most of the Demon Fruit power and Haki practitioners met, it is no longer possible to maintain an absolute advantage like in the past. This is the true role of Haki, and the great swordsman who fought peacefully with Yuya between the shots. It must also have a strong armament Haki. Kun is missing, the world's #1 swordsman, Hokage Mahog, once said. Advertisement. The black sword is a black sword because it has been corroded by armament Haki for a long time. And someone who has a very strong armament Haki. Armament Haki can be used as a drink, while the opponent's weapon can be soaked. Over time, it will take a long time to turn your weapon into something like a black knife. So, this is the real reason for the black knife. It's just that Hirano doesn't care about these at the moment. The piece in the hands of the great swordsman who was in a battle with him, of course, was a black sword. It's just a little bit. What he hasn't determined yet is what kind of method this guy used to make his weapon like this. Because he can see clearly. The long knife in the hands of the great swordsman turned out to be aquamarine. Logically speaking, the general 12 sharp knives should all be black. After all, because of the erosion of armament Haki for a long time. Only enough experience and convenient to fight. But why did this guy's knife become like this? Although Feng Youhui loaded Whitebeard's template, there was no frustration that took him completely out of his original feelings, because when he was in Naruto world, he used a knife to fight. So he was subconsciously interested in the 12 supreme swords in front of him. However, the other party obviously did not want to give him this opportunity. Between shots, Jian-Chi vibrated horizontally and horizontally. Although Gang-O almost divided the entire sky into two battles, he was defeated by Feng Youhui using shock fruit. But then again, even so, the battle between the two of them is still not as simple as initially imagined. That's right, even Hirano himself still have unusual thinking. The great swordsman in front of him, since he can serve as the core leader of the CP0 organization. Needless to say the strength of the opponent naturally. But he needs to think about a problem. This time his task is to take away the heavenly gold and have completed the activation task. And the reason why the great swordsman in front of him stopped himself. It is the opposite effect of him. But then again, the protection of celestial dragons and the protection of heavenly gold must not be lost. Which of these two things is more important? He must give the opponent a chance to choose. Ha ha ha. The smile echoed over the entire sea. Do not know why. The darkness before dawn is always particularly long. Ha ha ha. The heart is not enough to swallow the elephant, you want to protect celestial dragons, and you want to keep the gold in the sky. Doesn't this make me a little embarrassed? Give you a chance to choose, protect the safety of celestial dragons. Or continue to insist on both things. Feng Youhui spoke indifferently, without paying any attention to his opponent. The face of the top great swordsman. Following Feng Yuyi's words followed by words. Da Zhanao's face sank more and more. Xiao Xiaoji, if you want to do it, just do it. Neither marine nor world government have ever succumbed to the habits of others. Even if you have the same abilities and means as Whitebeard, and even if it was the top war 2 years ago, you have never had any fear of the real Whitebeard. Come on, it's nothing more than fighting. I have experienced less success over the years. The long sword in his hand neighed, and the two continued to collide in the air. I have to say that the power of shock fruit is beyond expectations. Even the sword energy that the great swordsman slashed out was still being shock fruit in the hands of Hirano. The open space 630 cracks are completely absorbed. There is no doubt that this kind of strength is beyond the expectations of two people. Whether it is Feng Youhui himself or the great swordsman. Never thought of it. The ability of shock fruit from Feng Youhui. Jingran also has this kind of ancillary effect that they never knew. Shock fruit has been named the strongest Paramesha devil fruit over the years. It's all because of the fruit itself. It has the momentum and ability to destroy the world. In other words, Whitebeard has made very few shots over the years. Therefore, even people of the age of great swordsmen still remain skeptical about the power of Whitebeard. Although he has played against the golden generation. But at that time, the separatist situation in this sea has already taken shape. So it's nothing. In other words, when Ping Youhui displayed the ability of Shock Fruit, Lia Great Swordsman also showed an extremely surprised attitude and feeling. He saw it really. To him, Hirano seemed to be stronger than the Whitebeard he had experienced. Of course it only refers to the aspect of Shock Fruit power. He frowned at the thought of this. Do not. This is simply impossible. Whitebeard has been called the strongest man in the world. Chapter 250. Boxing is afraid of being young. Advertisement. 254. Fist is afraid of being young. Therefore, it is passed down. There is a saying that is said. The so-called boxing is afraid of being young. 2 years ago, the battle at the top of the war was enough to prove the correctness of this statement. Whether it was the strongest 4 emperors Whitebeard Edward Newgate. It is still the golden generation of those previous generations who have already fallen into the long river of history. All have proved everything with their own actions. Why does Whitebeard, who is old and frail, die on top of many latecomers? Whether in the hands of a pirate or marine. Although it was his former son Blackbeard Marshal Teach who took his life. But he wasn't the only one who inflicted heavy losses on him. Whether it is the current Marine Marshal, the former Marine Admiral Akainu. Still those strong men later. They are all younger generations younger than him. That is the young and strong generation. It's like after the change of time. The law of time that can never be violated. This is the reason why the latecomers come first. This is also the reason why boxing is afraid of being young. Even the great swordsman of the CP organization. He has played against and intertwined with the golden generation. He has never seen Whitebeard before. How powerful was when he was young. No one has ever heard of this kind of thing. But now it appears in front of everyone. Isn't it Whitebeard when he was young? In addition to Ping Yuya's temperament and aura is different. Whether it is his physical ability or Shock Fruit's Devil Fruit ability. Without a doubt, pass this young body again. The people around are sending out a message and information. There is no doubt that the young body in front of him possesses the powerful strength of Whitebeard when he was young. Even if you think about it, this possibility is enough to make people feel terrified and shocked. How powerful is Whitebeard? No one knows. No one knows. But now, they finally had the answer in their hearts. Advertisement. No, isn't it? Is this the power of Whitebeard when he was young? I originally thought he was strong enough when he was in the war, but with the Shock Fruit ability, Hirano can undoubtedly represent the powerful strength of Whitebeard when he was young. At this moment, everyone present finally realized a terrible possibility. If Ping Youhui can represent the mighty power of Whitebeard when he was young, there is no doubt, Whitebeard of that young age in their consciousness. Far from what they imagined. The aura and strength of Ping Youhui in front of him. Far beyond the ability of these people present. But then again, for them, the birth of Ping Youhui turned out to have brought enough shock to them. It's just because of Hirano, who has the same ability as Whitebeard's Devil Fruit. Proved the suspicion of young people. However, as the battle progressed, the great swordsman of the CP organization, after all, couldn't help the opponent. It can only be allowed to use Shock Fruit's ability. It turned this sea upside down. The earth is shaking. At this moment, the fleet staying on the previous sea area. He was also countless waves ups and downs because Hirano got his hands. Shrouded everyone. Finally realized a problem. That is, they never had a problem they thought about. What is the purpose of Hirano? If you have not thought about it, it is not quite right. After all, the great swordsman of the CP organization had thought about it before, if nothing unexpected happened in his consciousness. Ping Yuya's goal is naturally the heavenly gold they transported. At best, it just wants to be against celestial dragons. But later, he found that this speculation seemed irresponsible. I just gave up, so that means I want to figure out the purpose of Ping Youhui. Only one possibility remains. There is no doubt that the appearance of Ping Youhui shocked everyone. And after that, he used the Shock Fruit ability. It also shocked the hearts of everyone present. Could not help but tremble a little. The old Whitebeard has shown such a strong momentum at the top of the war. Even the highest combat power of Marine is also the highest combat power of world government. Marine Admiral. Advertisement. There is no way to win the other party. It took many efforts and joint shots to win Whitebeard. With this uncertain factor, where do they have the qualifications and ideas to do something at the moment? Now, it seems that all the waiting people are left with a desperate ending. The great swordsman of the CP organization with superb strength and swordsmanship is at this moment. But his face was still plain. He looked at Ping Youhui, which was not far away, still floating in the air. An unpredictable smile appeared on his face at some point. Ha ha ha, unexpectedly, 2 years later, today, I will still be able to see the heroic appearance of Whitebeard in his heyday. Asterisk. I have to say, this is really not a bad thing, but then again, I never felt that you would really show fear because of this. What's more, right now Whitebeard has almost been consumed in the long river of history, but your appearance has made me have some bad memories. Now it seems that you have to pay for it. The great swordsman's tone was extremely cold. The long knife, one of the 12 supreme sharp knives in his hand, was placed horizontally, and he noticed the sword chi slashing. He slashed straight towards Hirano's figure in the air. At this time, Ping Youhui didn't seem to notice at all. He was feeling the huge flow of energy and essence in his body. I know that this is a sequelae after loading the template. He also knew that this was because Whitebeard was too powerful. Only then gave her such a follow-up response. In the world of One Piece, according to his worldview, the whole world Wang Hao is divided into 4 by Red Line and Grand Line. It is exactly divided into 4 sea areas, southeast, northwest and northeast. However, according to Hirano's memories and calculations, the area of Pirate World is larger than that of his previous life. Many times larger than the area of Blue Star. It is precisely because of this that many people have a slight misunderstanding about the combat effectiveness of ordinary people in the Pirate World. It was like when she was in the Hokage world before. Only need to load 2% of the captain's template, you can run wild. But after entering the world of pirates, he found that nothing could be done just like this. With the full version of the Whitebeard template. Finally, the kind of handy feeling surfaced in my heart. And Ping Youhui also understands. The system hands Whitebeard's template to itself. And it happened to be 2 years after the challenge was over. This has to be said to be a well-intentioned one. Chapter 251. Well-intentioned system. Advertisement. 255. Well-intentioned system. Ping Youhui smiled and shook his head, and sighed in his heart. After the system is conscientious and sensible. He opened his eyes and looked down, still standing on the sea. At a distance of about 20 feet away from him, the great swordsman Ping Youhui looked at him calmly. Suddenly, he smiled. Are you there? Do you want to feel once again the scenery of your old opponent? He knows that Whitebeard is the best 4 emperors candidate with the title of the strongest man in the pirate world. Even facing the top great swordsman in front of him, Hirano would not have any fear at all. What's more, his own physical technical ability has reached the ultimate level. After loading Whitebeard's template, I went further on this road. But at the moment, can you help him continue to cross in the pirate world? He had to pull down the ship that was transporting the sky. The mission to scare the celestial dragons has been completed. The remaining half of the task is the key to the successful activation of the system. But now, he doesn't seem to have any need to keep an eye on the activation of the system. Robbing the heavenly gold is just a happy thing for him. The great swordsman, his face did not change after hearing what Hirano said. But there was a huge wave in my heart. He 630 knew that this guy was deliberately aiming to irritate himself. But he had no way. He knew that the other party must be waiting for the opportunity to reveal his flaws. He absolutely can't give the other party that opportunity. No doubt, after this battle, Ping Youhui's name will resound throughout the pirate world. This is true regardless of whether he will reveal his true identity during the battle. A person who possesses the devil fruit ability of the strongest 4 emperors Whitebeard that has died. In any case, a new storm will be set off in this world. The first to bear the brunt is the new 4 emperors Blackbeard, who has already fought on the top to take away the power of Whitebeard devil fruit. Marshal Teach. No one can deny that Teach is a strategy and careerist. In the world of pirates, the score. Some people even call it a strong man and a conspiracy that has the opportunity to subvert the entire world. This is not without reason. When I thought of this, the great swordsman's eyes couldn't help but a faint smile appeared. He is looking forward to the encounter between Ping Youhui and the new 4 emperors Blackbeard, who is extremely ambitious. What kind of fire, BCFD, flowers can collide between the two of them? He is looking forward to seeing this day come. Advertisement. But at the moment, the most important thing is to solve the threat that Ping Youhui poses to him first. He could see clearly that since Hiragino now has the ability of shock fruit. So in this sea, no matter what he wants to do. Everyone, including the great swordsman himself. They don't have any qualifications and means to stop the extreme strength of the other party. The suppression of the gap brought about is indelible. Moreover, the great swordsman himself was able to reach today's level and cultivation level precisely because of his deep belief in this. Otherwise, even if he himself doesn't believe that strength is the basis for everything. With this kind of belief, why does he have the strength of a great swordsman? And standing at the highest level of the CP organization, such a master gathering organization. Hirano seemed to sense the change in the thoughts of the great swordsman. Smiled faintly. Well, since you don't plan to shoot anymore, then I will continue to do my things. With a move in the heart of the great swordsman, he greeted him with the long knife in his hand. He wants to stop all actions of Ping Youhui. He knew that the other party was definitely planning to attack Tianshengzhen. Once Tianshengzhen really loses, then even if he is already one of the several giants in the CP organization. Still don't have the courage to bear this fault. Because no one can afford it. Therefore, he wants to stop the long sword in Hirano's hand. Severely approved, a stunned sword chi slashed out. At this moment, the first rays of dawn have yet to come. No one noticed this. In normal times, this is definitely not the case. Obviously, everyone who is in this battle right now. I have forgotten the passing of time and the feeling of pushing back to them. Only the great swordsman looked at the red phantom under the eastern sea level from time to time, which had never jumped out. Sure enough, at this time, suddenly, Ping Youhui raised his eyes to the sky with a long roar. He no longer squeezed his fists and released the position of shock fruit's ability. Turned into another posture. But when I saw this posture, in the heart of the great swordsman, panic emerged. He even yelled subconsciously, "Stop it!" But why would Ping Youhui listen to him? Seeing Ping Yuyi's whole body floating in the air, he slowly closed his eyes. Feel the energy accumulation of shock fruit in the body. Advertisement. That's right, after he loaded Whitebeard's template for the first time. His use of shock fruit has reached the limit. In other words, in the present world. Even Blackbeard, who has the real shock fruit ability. It was also impossible to make any decent resistance in front of Feng Youhui. Especially when using the shock fruit ability to fight. Still so, this is also the reason why the great swordsman suddenly lost his face in shock. Because he saw it very clearly. After Feng Youhui shot, the surrounding space suddenly started a violent shock. Immediately afterwards, around Hirano's body, a transparent glass-like circle appeared. The circle enveloped Hirano's body. It seemed that he was actually taking his body as the center of the circle and going outwards. A space shock. The great swordsman didn't even want to see him. Already understand what Hirano intends to do. He actually intended to use his body as a basis. Use the flat yono as the center of the circle to guide the shock fruit and radiate outwards to vibrate. This method is not wise. It's not that powerful. It's not terrible, but right now, the great swordsman could not do anything at all. If he wants to float up on his own and fight peacefully and wildly, then, he has the strength of a great swordsman himself. He will definitely be rejected by the shock fruit's ability that has already manifested outside Feng Youhui's body. It is impossible to fight in close combat at all. It may even cause shock fruit to explode in advance because of its proximity. Yes, Hirano is equivalent to using shock fruit's ability. He made everything except his body into a giant bomb that could explode at any time. You must know that shock fruit has the ability to destroy the world. This is not a joke. At this time, if Feng Youhui does or even completes it according to his plan, no doubt, this sea area will be completely destroyed in an instant. Chapter 252, Worries Come True. Advertisement. 257, Worries Come True. Great Zhanao's expression was extremely gloomy. He never thought of it. Hirano would use this method to attack them. There is no doubt that for the current great swordsman, Hirano has resorted to this method and has already touched his taboo area. If he had never thought of this method before, so now. It's time for him to think about it. The method used by Hirano was to use shock fruit's ability to form an aperture around his body. Based on this aperture, it radiates outward. The space outside its body was made into a V-shaped terrorist bomb. This kind of thing is easy to think of and sounds easy. But it's not that easy to do. It's not only because of this. Must achieve almost perfect control over shock fruit. You know, a kind of devil fruit, not everyone who has the ability of devil fruit can apply it perfectly. After all, devil fruit itself is also a more extreme existence. The reason why devil fruit is called devil fruit. It is because in the legend, every devil fruit has a special demon inhabiting it. This is the source of devil fruit's ability. For the owner of devil fruit, one thing they must do is to seize the opportunity. Form a good interaction and entanglement with devil fruit. If this is not possible, then there is no doubt that devil fruit's ability is impossible to get the slightest improvement. And for the devil fruit ability owner, whether to be able to improve one's own ability to the perfect integration with devil fruit's ability is the most critical. Only, the general devil fruit ability owner, this can't be done at all. And for demon fruit power, this is not the real issue that needs to be considered. It is the most basic question. It exists in devil fruit's ability itself and has great flaws. Not only because after becoming demon fruit power, you have to face being hated by the sea. The disadvantage of no way to swim. Even subject to sea stone weapons. I also let myself have more than one shortcoming out of thin air. But even so, for the devil fruit ability owner, this kind of thing is not a big deal. After all, after possessing a devil fruit ability. Advertisement. For changes in itself, it has already made a huge difference. If it weren't for this, no one would be willing to add one of the deadliest shortcomings to themselves for no reason. But even so, it is difficult for demon fruit power to have a perfect fusion with devil fruit. This is why there are many devil fruit capable people themselves. The devil fruit possessed is very powerful, but it can't bring out the effects and functions it should have. His most critical reason lies in this. He simply has no way to exert a powerful force. This is not only because of the limited strength of the capable person. And the more important, more critical reason lies in it. Between the capable person and devil fruit, there is no way to achieve perfect and harmonious resonance. It is precisely because of this. Only then did demon fruit power be in different fields. Separate good and bad, level, and gap. If not because of this, I'm afraid whoever it is, you have to think about a problem. That is why the devil fruit ability owner distinguishes the difference between the strong and the weak. For devil fruit ability owners, the degree of integration with devil fruit. Strong and weak, it also represents what extent they can achieve. There is no doubt about this. This is why Hirano showed such a strong affinity with devil fruit. Will bring such a huge horrible shock to the great swordsman. There is no doubt that the great swordsman is naturally the only strong man in this sea. However, when he saw the effect of the shock fruit ability displayed by Hirano, he was still shocked. To know, in the war on the top 2 years ago, he had already seen the horror of Whitebeard when he was dying. No less than thinking of the golden generation above the sea. A strong aura when fighting against One Piece Roger. However, even so, it still cannot explain the problem. If demon fruit power itself is disgusted by the sea because of this matter. Become the most unfortunate group of people in the world. This is also a side effect of their own powerful abilities. So the top powerhouses such as Whitebeard undoubtedly compress the weakness of this ultimate. Advertisement. Please ask for flowers. It's almost impossible to think about it. This is why. The reason why Whitebeard will be called the strongest man in the world. His shock fruit ability is perfectly integrated with Whitebeard. Will be called the most powerful Paramesha devil fruit ability. The so-called ability to destroy the world comes from this. But it is well known. After the death of Whitebeard, Blackbeard, Marshall Teach, inherited his abilities. Does not have the same pressure as Whitebeard. This in itself comes from the physical fitness and abilities of the devil fruit ability owner. For the great swordsman, even Blackbeard appeared in front of him. He probably won't have too much fear, caring. 0. But the state shown by this young man in front of him. But it is no different from Whitebeard in the prime of life. However, it is for this reason. Only then gave Da Jianhao an ultimate experience. He conscientiously looked at Feng Youhui, who had created an air bomb in the void with himself as the center of the circle. A cold smile crossed his face. Ha ha ha, I didn't expect that I would still see this scene in front of me one day. Whitebeard, I originally thought that after you died in the war on the top 2 years ago, your time should be over, but I never thought you would come back, and in this form. After he finished speaking, the whole person turned into a black lightning. He dashed towards Hirano, almost at the same time. He exerted his strength, yelled under him, quick, get out all the warships, and move me all that can move. Make sure that there are no living people within 5 kilometers, hurry up. After he finished speaking, he never stopped. Holding the supreme sharp knife, one of the 12 black and purple long knives. Headed towards Hirano. The breath of terror thunderous, and the 2 most powerful people collided in the air again. The air barrier around Hirano's body expanded more and more. Touched with the long knife in the hands of the great swordsman. As if a comet hit the earth. Brought a ray of light to this dark dawn. There was a long scream from the great swordsman. Break it open for me. Chapter 253. Zeon Collision. Advertisement. 258. The strongest collision. For him, this battle has contained more other meanings. From his point of view, the reason why Hirano can show such a powerful momentum. It is precisely because his ability to understand shock fruit that Whitebeard possessed at that time has surpassed others. Not to mention whether he is better than Whitebeard at his peak. Only with this young body and a more reasonable and perfect application of shock fruit. Enough to make him among the top powerhouses in the world. Even the great swordsman was still thinking about it before. Does this guy have enough qualifications to reach this point? But now just the next moment, he has changed his mind. It's not because of other reasons. Simply put, the strength has reached the ultimate level. It will bring them a different experience, and it is precisely because of this. 67. Whether it is the great swordsman himself or the rest of the people present. All have figured out the logic of this. This is why Hirano can be used reasonably. The reason why shock fruit has reached such a point. But he couldn't let the other party be so dedicated to the front. He ordered the rest of the CP organization and marine under him to put the golden ships in the sky. All ships and warships traveling with celestial dragons were driven to a range of 5 kilometers. This is his ultimate estimate, and he only has enough ability to do this. He wants to guarantee, before the warship went out of the range of 5 kilometers. It must be able to suppress Hirano, and use itself as an air bomb to radiate out the waves. He has to do this no matter what means he uses. Once the air bomb made by Hirano formed a vacuum. Then do ultimate. It is likely to put him in a dilemma. After all, celestial dragons are not only responsible for their protection this time. There is gold in the sky. If you want to choose one of them. He can only choose celestial dragons. Protecting the safety of several celestial dragons is naturally much safer than protecting the entire 2 ships full of gold. What's more, other methods are no longer necessary for them at the moment. Continuing the stalemate in peace and Yono can only wait for the rescue to arrive as soon as possible. Advertisement. And even so, the great swordsman did not have enough confidence. When the rescue came, I'm afraid they would have already returned to the dust. It's not that he has no confidence in himself at all. But mediocrity also showed almost the same breath as Whitebeard in his youth. Already let him lose the plan and idea to continue fighting. There is no doubt that Hirano himself is extremely confident in this aspect. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to use shock fruit's ability to such a perfect level casually. But then again, this matter has never been so simple. For Hirano himself, what he inherited was the Whitebeard template that the system gave him. Rather than the so-called shock fruit usage method. Therefore, in the eyes of others, Hirano is more like a young Whitebeard than anything else. It is different from Blackbeard, who had harvested shock fruit in the war on the top. The difference between the two of them is this. I saw the great swordsman lift a purple-black long knife into the air. The air barrier that Feng Youhui placed around her body collided with each other. It was just the time between rebirths, and the air barrier around Feng Youhi's body had expanded to a position and distance of 3 feet away. If it weren't for the great swordsman to make a timely move, it will definitely spread out again. This kind of thing is not very common. However, the great swordsman himself could not care too much. Right now, he can only use his own powerful strength to forcefully suppress Hirano. Shock fruit's ambition spread outward, and then waited for the remaining warships to move out of the attack range. Only in this way, he was able to complete the mission of guarding celestial dragons and celestial dragons. But then again, this matter is not a bad thing for the great swordsman. Of course he would not think that he would die in this mission. But if you want to leave, you can give up at any time. There is no intersection between him and Hirano. Hirano intends to rob the celestial gold and threaten celestial dragons by the way. The purpose of the great swordsman is to protect the safety of celestial dragons. There is no direct conflict between the two of them. The reason why the great swordsman would attack Hirano is entirely because Hirano's appearance is too strong. If it wasn't for Hirano himself too much like the legendary world's strongest man. Advertisement. Whitebeard state when he was young. I'm afraid there is no way for anyone who was there. I believe this young man turned out to be just a newbie. If Hirano knew what other people thought, he would laugh out loud involuntarily. Because he himself is not a pirate at all, he also never considered himself a pirate. At the same time, it spreads out with Hirano's body as the center of the circle. A spherical transparent air barrier began to grow bigger and bigger. 10 feet, 20 feet. The great swordsman used his long sword to resist, forcibly suppressing the spread of Hirano. But it's just suppression. It was not successfully blocked. Maybe he really slowed down the spread of the air barrier around Hirano's body. However, the speed after the slowdown is still extremely terrifying. Looking at Feng Youhui who was getting farther and farther away from him because of the passing of the air barrier. There was peace in the heart of the great swordsman. He nodded silently, then said nothing. That's how it is, that's how it is. I thought it was really the old guy with the beard who was resurrected. I finally understand now that the so-called power of devil fruit is not the only one in this world. At the beginning, I watched the Blackbeard guy steal Whitebeard in the war on the top, and the shock fruit left behind after his death. At the time, I was still wondering why shock fruit didn't disappear as described in the devil fruit manual, and then waiting for the next person to become a destined person who was plundered by Haihu 5.3. It seems that this matter is not that simple at all. If I guess right, you should get the same thing as Blackbeard. Hearing these words, Hirano floating in the air was a little bit dumbfounded. But he didn't bother to explain, comparing himself with the old Blackbeard kind of miscellaneous hair. But it's really insulting. I thought of this. Feng You's ambition froze, and the air barrier around his body expanded faster. The great swordsman thought he had said the pain of the other party, and couldn't help but feel a little delighted. Seeing that the air barrier speed has reached ultimate. He turned to look at the warships under him, and they had sailed far enough. At this time, he was finally able to fight peacefully with Yu Yi. Chapter 254. Hirano's Plan. Advertisement. 259. Hirano's Plan. Originally, according to Feng You's plan, the two things of robbing the celestial gold and scaring celestial dragons should go in parallel. Because he has such a great opportunity. While carrying out the task of robbing the heavenly gold, it is the best result to be able to complete another one. However, he did not expect that the opportunity would come so suddenly and so perfectly. The plan to rob the heavenly gold has not yet been officially launched. The plan to scare the Tianong people was completed ahead of schedule. But it can't be said to be in advance. After all, this matter will be done sooner or later. But for Feng Youhui, it is true. After completing the plan to frighten celestial dragons, he was rewarded with the ability to load Whitebeard's template 100%. Taking this opportunity, he was able to use his abilities like a fish in water to completely complete the task in front of him. This wonderful feeling of complementarity makes Feng Youhui exceptionally comfortable. But to be honest, for him now, it is quite good to be able to achieve such a result. At least it was more stable than the problems he had been thinking and imagining before. To give a simple example, that is what Feng You's ambition now thinks. There is only one question left. He will use the shock fruit ability to overthrow the heavenly gold on the warship. Get it? Only now, heavenly gold has no special meaning. If it was before, he still wanted to use heavenly gold to buy a weapon that could take advantage of it. But now, there is no such consideration. After all, Hirano had already got Whitebeard's template. Then of course there is no need for him to become a swordsman again. To be precise, for him now, use Whitebeard's template to fight directly. Then as a swordsman, the ones to come are more cost-effective. The current situation has developed to this point. The great swordsman of the CP organization was born for Feng Youhui. Obviously showed the negative attitude of ultimate. For him, the appearance of Feng Youhui undoubtedly announces that the CP organization is about to enter a new era. What's more, the current situation has become very obvious. In any case, the CP organization should not be the proof in front of them. Advertisement. Young men show fear, after all, whether they are in status or status. All belong to the top existence in this world. Except for celestial dragons, they are the top wave. It's just that all the people in the CP organization didn't expect it. Even if they have always depended on the ultimate identity for survival. In the eyes of a young man like Hirano, it's nothing at all. There is no doubt that Feng Youhui appeared. They completely broke their previous ideas and plans. But as the leader of the CP organization, this great swordsman should have been so mentally prepared. For him, the significance of the CP organization has long been extraordinary. What's more, the appearance of Feng Youhui brought a trace of pressure to him. He doesn't think this is a bad thing. Especially for the entire CP organization. Appropriate pressure can promote the organization in which you are in. It's a good thing to grow. And it's a great thing. It's just that he himself needs to have the strength to withstand this kind of pressure on this basis. Otherwise, the result will be the opposite. For the prestige and strength of the CP organization. Cause huge damage. Now that the matter is over, he naturally has no other way. No doubt, the current CP organization has no other means to turn things around. Ping Youhui has the strength of Whitebeard, and his master is Whitebeard when he was young. What kind of monster is it? This great swordsman is very clear in his heart. So when he saw Hirano, he had made up his mind and was ready to shoot directly. His heart sank. He knew that the matter was over. Everything is waived, but he couldn't convince himself, so he gave up. After all, for the current self, whether it is the position of ultimate within the CP organization, even the rights he possessed made him reluctant to give up, so he wanted to take action. Just at this time, advertisement. Ping Youhui suddenly opened his eyes and smiled faintly. He looked down at all the warships in the entire sea area under him. Face after face with horror. Ha 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 ha, come, isn't it fighting? I'm here waiting for you. Then he looked not far away, holding the purple-black long knife, and staring at his great swordsman with gleaming eyes. The smile is even more presumptuous. Regarding this young man's unscrupulousness, although the great swordsman had the intention to kill the thief, he was powerless to revolving heaven. The long knife in his hand was placed horizontally, splitting out horizontally, slashing with a shocking sword energy. But for the current Hirano, this kind of attack is nothing at all. He has condensed shock fruit around his body with an air barrier. And spread out, if you want to calculate the power. Nowadays, the flat ward is almost equivalent to 1, it is impossible to predict when it will explode, and it is unpredictable. An untimely bomb that will explode at any time. And the power of this untimely bomb. Very powerful. To be precise, Ping Youhui's strength nowadays is not easy to be judged by general judgment standards. In other words, it is difficult to define what level of strength Ping Youhui belongs to. 647. Because at the moment, he has already mastered a certain method that ordinary people have never had. That is the awakening of devil fruit. That's right, the use level of devil fruit is divided into many stages. To be precise, the general devil fruit user is a method called the power of devil fruit to fight. The general way of demon fruit power fighting. It just sheds devil fruit's ability. Paramesha is to increase physical fitness and abilities. Zone is almost the same, except that Paramesha is based on zone devil fruit. There are more tricks and transformation methods. The fruit ability of animal cell membranes is only to increase the user's physical fitness, speed, strength and patience. However, devil fruit's abilities have some categories that are not low in starting points. Such as Logia devil fruit and some special classifications. For example, in the zone devil fruit, the starting point of the devil fruit's abilities of the monster species and ancient species that existed is already much stronger than the general level of devil fruit's abilities. And then again, the master method of the general devil fruit ability owner is not too powerful. After all, it is only a shallow application, but if it can be developed more, it will be much more powerful. Chapter 255, Fruit Awakens. Advertisement. Open black lens bracket 260 close black lens bracket fruit awakens. Simply put, to what level can devil fruit be deeply developed by developers? It proves the owner of this devil fruit ability possess the powerful strength and potential. If the general demon fruit power, it's just to be able to master a basic fighting style. Only a short-term increase can be made on the basis of one's own. So now devil fruit. So demon fruit power, which has a general ability, is just a simple increase. And the deeper demon fruit power can carry out higher level development of devil fruit. There is a very high level in the development of devil fruit, which is also in the legend. That is a state called awakening. A state of awakening once a devil fruit ability is developed will produce a kind of ability that is close to fantasy. Simply put, once devil fruit can awaken, it will affect the environment around the user's body. This method is called heaven defying. If a capable person can develop the devil fruit he owns to an awakened state, then there is no doubt, it can easily suppress others who have not yet reached this state of ability. Regardless of whether there is a strong or weak difference between abilities. This method alone is sufficient to explain the problem. And compared to devil fruit that has entered the awakening state, the average powerhouse has no way to take the opponent. To put it simply, possessing the devil fruit ability in the state after awakening is equivalent to possessing a powerful means that can completely restrain one's opponent. Devil fruit's awakening undoubtedly means that this method has reached its peak state. Once a certain devil fruit ability can be turned into awakening, it means that the owner of this devil fruit ability has stepped into the ranks of the world's strong. Of course there are some exceptions. That is, your opponent has a stronger state on top of yours. Although the development of devil fruit's abilities is respected by awakening, it is absolutely impossible to have a state more powerful than this state. But there are exceptions to everything. There is no doubt about it right now, when Ping Youhui obtained the Whitebeard body template. He has already developed shock fruit to a state of awakening, not to say that he himself has a very high degree of understanding of shock fruit so quickly. It's because he understood everything the moment he gained 100% of Whitebeard's template. No doubt, Whitebeard himself has developed shock fruit to a means of awakening. Advertisement. Right now, he displayed the barrier of Zhongjungjung fruit. The aperture extends to the periphery of the body, and on this basis, a means equivalent to the power of a nuclear bomb is created. It is the perfect application for the state of shock fruit after awakening, even though Whitebeard had never thought of such a usage before. But the reason why Ping Youhui was able to perform this method is completely based on Whitebeard. I have developed shock fruit to function after awakening. In other words, Ping Youhui now possesses such powerful means and combat effectiveness. It is based on the development of the shock fruit ability that Whitebeard himself has reached the state of awakening. There are not many options left for Peng Youhui at the moment. Either he will destroy the sea area under him and take the heavenly gold in his hand instantly by the way, to complete the activation task issued by the system, or he chooses another more extreme method. After all, he now has 100% of Whitebeard's templates. The world is so big that there is no place he can't go. There is nothing to worry about at all. After a brief period of thought, Hirano decided to follow the prompts of the system's tasks. After all, it is difficult for him to proceed to the next step without a systematic reminder arrangement. So when he saw the great swordsman coming towards him with a long knife in his hand, with a mediocre smile, he has turned the air around his body into an untimely bomb. Who dares to touch him now? Whoever has to die. Sure enough, when the great swordsman's long sword came with wine, Hirano moved. He didn't make any major movements, just threw his right fist out of the barrier to bulge a small bag. It happened that Xiaobao collided with the long sword that the great swordsman swung. In an instant, the sky fell apart and the earth shattered. A collision that doesn't seem to be enough to attract the attention of others. But it attracted the endless seas around me. I tossed upside down, as if the world had been destroyed. And to say who was the most uncomfortable now. Of course, it was the great swordsman who just made the noise. He never thought that the other party would show such a powerful means. Even if it was himself, he didn't expect it. This attack didn't even play any role at all. Just a brief collision, almost completely destroyed his arms. Even when he was attacking, he had already used the top armament Haki for protection. But also because of the collision just now. Not only was his arms numb, but armament Haki was wrapped around his arms. Also dispersed in one blow. Advertisement. The clothing surrounding the body was also shattered. Dissipated in the air and ceased to exist. She was terrified. He had never seen this scene before him. She couldn't figure it out. Why does this happen? His strength is already the top in this world. Even if I just forgot the power of Hirano's methods because of carelessness. Even so, he shouldn't be defeated by a single blow. There must be something he didn't notice. Once this idea breeds, it becomes infinitely magnified in his heart. Aroused suspicion of himself, he began to feel more and more. There must be something beyond his expectation. The power of Peng Youhui is not just that simple. There is no doubt that the young man in front of him must be the master with some ability he doesn't know. Suddenly his heart moved. Could it be that this guy has just acquired the ability of shock fruit, and he has already developed Wang Ma Jiao to an awakened state? Impossible. How can it be? In this world, it is absolutely impossible to have such a strong person. For a while, the great swordsman had almost forgotten the pain that came back from his arms. Cannot accept. Do not. Impossible. It is absolutely impossible for such a talented person to exist in this world. Within a short period of time, shock fruit has been developed in awakened state. I don't believe in Su. As he drank, he continued to bulge a more pounding armament Haki on his arms. Lifted the knife in front of him. Seeing that it was about to go from top to bottom, it would go straight down. At the same time, he emits a purple electric light all over his body. There is no doubt that the great swordsman at this time has already hit a real fire. Because he used the means that can symbolize ultimate in this world. That is what is called Conqueror's Haki.